Shabbat Shalom. Good evening, Bruchim Abim. So good to see all these communal faces. So good to welcome Shabbat in community. So good to welcome Rabbi Walden, who is finally, we have been waiting for months.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
And he also speaks.
From time to time.
Wow. So we have been waiting for him to join us for several months already, and we are glad to welcome him into our community. Welcoming a rabbi is not a Kabbalat Shabbat event. It takes some time. So we're going to be working on how to welcome Michael into the community and how to share with him the beauty of Shir Chadash and the many gifts that our community has, that probably you have experienced some of them, and you are gradually experiencing, but I think you, as many of us, will fall in love with this community. You'll see. And also this very special Shabbat in which we are going to be celebrating tomorrow, a little bit tonight and quite a bit tomorrow. Ruben. Ruben will come up to the Torah as a second bar mitzvah. And some people do it 70 years later, but Ruben's 72, 73, who knows? Like, he's been waiting for the right moment for the entire family to be here, and finally this is happening, so we'll have the privilege to have him leading part of the service with us, the Torah reading. And maybe he wants to sing something in prep to tomorrow, and sharing the Var Torah, some words of wisdom. So, with all that said, we will get started with our Kabbalat Shabbat, this Kabbalat Shabbat in which we will read Parashat
Hukat Balak.
Hukat Balak, two Torah portions that come together, beautiful Torah portions that we will explore later on, but with several profound messages. One of them being when you follow your feelings, when you hear the voices that are speaking to you, those that are trying to guide you. What do you listen to? So thinking about that question, we'll later on talk about that. We will enter this Shabbat, and we will turn our Sidurim now to page 129 as we try to enter Shabbat with our hearts. We sing from the Song of the Songs. I am my beloved, and my beloved is mine. We're on page 129, Dodili.
Min
invite, who are we inviting to light candles, Cantor?
The Levy family.
The Levy family, including Cantor, to light Shabbat candles. We invite you to turn your siddur to page 120.
Who's lighting them? Oh,
Introduce the family, Deborah. Come on.
Okay.
Let them do it.
daughter is included?
Yeah, everybody.
Okay, so we have Mina, Mia, Rachel. This is my niece, Amelia, and this is my nephew, Kamale. And you know my father-in-law, Reuben. And this is my husband, David. What do you think to me?
You got it.
I think I really killed it. There we go. Now I know what all the families feel like, right?
It's coming, but maybe
Should
like
be
the
in Bar
Mashiach.
Torah.
It's about Torah, that's right. Okay, ready? 1, 2. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and congratulations. We'll now turn our siddur to page 130 as we aim to start Shabbat, to welcome Shabbat in motion. Lechur Arena, we walk toward welcoming Shabbat.
Neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzur yishenu, nekadma fanav b'toda mizmirot, nariya lo, nekadma fanav b'toda
Page 131.
Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai, baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru v'goyim, kevodo, bechol ha'amim, nifleotav. Yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai,
Adonai malach tagel haaretz, ismechu him ravim. Light is on for the righteous, radiance for the upright. מזמור שירו לאדוני, I on page 133. מזמור שירו לאדוני, שיר חדש, כי נפלאות עשה. We sing a new song, a song in which we try to recognize the niflaot, the miracles that we have in our lives and sometimes take for granted. Shabbat is an invitation to take a moment to acknowledge those miracles and to enter a different dimension, a palace on time. We will now turn our Sidurim to page 134, Psalm 95. Turn our Sidurim to page 136 for Psalm 29, Mizmor LeDavid. I always like to remind that in many synagogues, not in this one, not now, people rise for Psalm 29. And to some extent, it's representative of this idea that tefillah, prayer, is supposed to put us in our feet. It's supposed to elevate us, uplift us. So I invite you to think for a moment what's holding you back. Not what's keeping you in your chair necessarily. While you remain in your chair, what do you need in order to elevate, to uplift yourself? Page 136.
Come on.
Sidurim to page 138 as we think of Shabbat as a bride. We will bring our spirits or Ruach into welcoming, into acknowledging that majestic presence. Here at Shir Chadash we sing the first, the second, the fifth, the sixth, and the ninth verse of Lecha Dodi. By the ninth, we will invite you to rise and then to turn toward the entrance of the synagogue.
לקראת קהלם, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלם, פני שבת נקבלה. שמע וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, לשמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה. מראש מכלם נסוכה, סוף מעשה ומחשבה תהילה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי,
התעוררי, כי האורך קומי אורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה.
לך דודי,
לקראת קהלה,
פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תיכלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, אך יחסו עניי ימין, ונפנתה עיר על תהילה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
בואי בשלום, עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהולה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה.
לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת קהלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos, and as we have welcomed Shabbat, we will take a moment to welcome each other, to say Shabbat Shalom to each other. If this is your first time at Shir Chadash and you want to say your name, we would love for you to share that info with us. And if you feel a bit embarrassed to do that, don't do that. You don't have to. Welcome to Shir Chadash. What's your name? John. Baruch haba. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom. If we have anyone else that is new at Shir Chadash, okay. Now look around, and if you recognize a face that you don't recognize, make a point out of saying Shabbat Shalom. Let's say Shabbat Shalom to each other. off your microphone. B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat kala. Ay, B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat nekavela. Ay, 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 lecha dodi. Ay, 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 likrat kala. Ay, B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat, B'nei Shabbat nekavela. ימין ושמאל, ויפרוצי בבית אדוני, תריצי, יסיס עלייך, והפרסי, כבשוס חתן, הקהלה, אי לי 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 לך אדוני, אי לי 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 לקראת קהלה, אי בני שבת, בני שבת, בני שבת נקרלה. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la la la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. We will invite you to go back to your chair. We will now turn our sidurim. We'll now turn our sidurim to page 140. Before moving into Ma'ariv Shel Shabbat, we will dedicate to Shabbat one more song, Psalm 92, Mizmor Shir LeYom HaShabbat.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני. ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני. טוב להודות לאדוני.
page 144.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. ועמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, וימהרו, אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, ועולם עולם והמיה, יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו. לעילם מנקו בחטא ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תמירן בעלמה, וימהרו, אמן.
We will now turn our Siddurim to page 146. Please rise for Baruch.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, ha'ma'ariv ha'aravim. Blessed are you, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being. Blessed are you, and may you reign continually over us and into eternity, who brings on the evening.
As we get closer to the Shema, we think about the source of everlasting love. We think of the divine presence and divine love in its many forms, its many shapes, and we recognize that it looks, it feels different for each of us in different times of our lives. So I invite you to take one moment to close your eyes and think about what that everlasting love looks like, feels like to you. What is a source of unconditional love, a stream of love in your life? It might be a landscape. It might be the smile of a beloved person, maybe their eyes. It might be a moment, a memory of your life. It might be a special place. connect with that stream of love. Let that stream of love surround you and embrace you as if it was a talit, a prayer shawl, and let it surround you. And when you are wrapped, embraced by this talit, by this prayer shawl of light and love, take a moment to focus on your breath. As you breathe in, acknowledge that love as your love toward the world, and bring it into your system. And as you exhale, recognize the energies and maybe the love that doesn't belong to you. And take it out, let it go. Try to recognize energies that not necessarily belong to you, and let them go. And as we think of our breath, I invite you to take a deep breath. As we say, dear God, please never remove your love from us. יבדך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. I invite you to turn your Siddur into page 152 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Page 154.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אמת, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. אמת באמונה כל סוד בקיים עלינו, כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו, בן זולתו, ואנחנו ישראל עמו. We will continue with the silent reading over page 156, or alternatively you can take a moment and choose one of the readings on page 157. children witness your presence. They praise your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moshe, Miriam, and all Israel stand to you together, lifting their voices with joy. Who is like you, O God? Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. We are on page 156. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh. Nora tehilot osef eleh. From a hand stronger than his own. Praise are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Gaal Israel. As we turn our Sidurim to page 160, we take a moment to think about our ability to be ourselves, shelters of peace, to be Sukkot shel Shalom within our hearts, and to bring that peace to our lives, to transform that peace into internal peace.
Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim. Ashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu lechayim.
Shalom Aleinu, al Kol Amo Israel, ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, where all your people in Israel, and over the city of Shalom, holy city of Yerushalayim. We will now turn our Sidurim to page 162, as we take just a moment to remember that it's Shabbat. We say, "V'shamru b'nei Israel et Shabbat." לעשות את השבת, לדור אותם, ברית עולם. It is a covenant for the children of Israel in every single generation to find their way to acknowledge Shabbat, to allow Shabbat into our lives, and to let Shabbat keep us alive. And with that idea is that we turn our Sidurim to page 164 for Tfilat Amidah. We invite you to please rise as we recite the millennial words of our traditional prayer silently. You can also choose to take a moment to think, to find the words of your personal prayer, of your Avodah Shebalev, of the prayer of your heart. Sefatai tiftach ufi
יגיד תהילתך, Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise.
תגיבו לא למדרים לכם. הקדוש ברוך הוא הקדוש. תגיד זה משהו. Bueno, pero no todo no era, no tengo que meter la lambda, surja ahí, no viene Shane. לרצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי בגואלי. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. עשה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who inhabit the earth. And let us say,
Amen.
at this point we take a moment to think, to acknowledge people dealing with illness in their bodies, in their souls. We think of those carrying grief, and we think of those dealing with addictions. If there is a name that you like to share in this Erev Shabbat, we invite you to do so as we go around the room. We're praying for her. שלמה.
Shlomo ben Daniel, Avi.
Bruce Roberts, Alfreda Massman, Diane Siegel, Gail Franco, Scott Van Gundy, Daphne Talmor, Mira Engel, Dave Stahl, Greg Herb, Maurice Siegel, Lori Shaken, Sue Leiter, Bobby Miller, Laura Sternberg, Margaret McGuan, Carol Rosenberg, Ken Crown, Denise Pringle, Sue Heller, Andrea Westgate, Richard Ravitch, Bernice Paris, Franklin Wolfson, Helen Curlin, Karen Katzman, Jay Stanton, Micah Rawson.
now turn our Sidurim to page 371 for Mishaverach. To all of us, to all of them, refuah shlema v'achlama meira, a complete recovery and well-being and strength. And let us say,
Amen. So what do you want to talk about? Tonight, we're in the middle of a double parsha, Chukat Balak, and I thought Rabbi Nico and I we're going to talk a bit about these parsha. We're going to focus on Balak tonight, but he asked me to open and explain, sort of set the scene a bit, what's going on. So for those of us, I know you're very familiar with Balak, sir, but for those of us not familiar, right, there's a famous story involving a character named Bilam, who is a bit of a miracle worker. He does his thing, and he gets a call one day. It's Balak, the king, who is looking at a bunch of Israelites, and he's like, this is no good. We need a miracle worker. And he calls Balak, and he sends emissaries, actually. They didn't really have good service. And he sends emissaries, and the emissaries say, hey, listen, you got to come. He's like, no. Bilam says, I don't want any of that. Balak sends more emissaries, higher-ranking emissaries. And Bilam says, listen, okay, if I go, I can't do anything against God, but I'll go. And God has mixed feelings about this, but Bilam goes and he rides his donkey on the way. He's on the way when an angel of the Lord, it says, appears right before Bilam and the donkey. Bilam can't see that angel, but the donkey can, and the donkey swerves to avoid the angel with the flaming sword, by the way. And Bilam is like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And curses his donkey. And once again, the angel of the Lord is in the path, and the donkey swerves one more time. It's a very narrow footpath if you look at the Hebrew. And once more this happens until the strangest thing happens, right? It's that God put words in the mouth of the donkey. And the donkey turns to Bilam and says, what the heck? I've served you faithfully for years. And Bilam, when confronted with a talking donkey, doesn't miss a beat. He was like, what the heck are you doing? I've been trying to get here. You're swerving off the road. Not the first thing I would say to a talking donkey, but hey. And lo and behold, the angel reveals itself. Bilam suddenly is quite worried about his health and safety, right? Prostrates himself and continues on his way to Balak, who says, all right, you're here. You're gonna hex or curse the Israelites, and we'll call it a day. Balaam is like, I don't know if that's a good idea. But he goes up, he says, all right, listen, build me 7 altars, we'll do it. What happens? He blesses them. Balak is like, are you kidding? Listen, I called you here. Okay, let's try another site. Maybe the site was the problem. So they go to a new site, right? They build 7 altars, sacrifice 7 bulls. And what happens? Balaam goes up to curse them and blesses them even more strongly than before. Balak is like, what are you, this is not what I called you for. All right, we're going to try it again. Maybe you just need a different vantage point. What do you think happens? The same thing happens, but not quite actually. Even a little stronger, right? And this third time, Balaam says these words. Some of them might be familiar to you all. He says, "Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov." Has anyone heard that before? Right? It's pretty strong praise. Right? It made it into the liturgy, so that someone must have liked it. Right? And Balak, fed up, is like, "Get out of here." But before he goes, Balaam says to Balak, "Listen, you haven't treated me so nicely. Granted, I didn't do what you hired me for. But I just want you to know, your people face annihilation by the Israelites." And then he leaves on his merry way. Or so it says. We might see him show up in a later parsha. So with that, that's the introduction to this week's parsha.
It was a great introduction. Thank you, Rabbi.
What do you make
shall
of it?
we?
Oh,
Thank you very much, everybody. It was a. I think that you wanted to say something initially, right?
well, I could say a thing or 4 or 7. So there's the plain text. That's the text. It's right here. We got it in the Bible. And then there's stories around the text. And then there's commentary on the text, right? And then there's commentary on the commentary, and we'll go forever. But there are a few really interesting sort of nuggets that we learn from the stories, because the stories flesh it out a bit. They give us a little bit of context, right? In the Bible's a little terse. Miriam and Aaron die in Chukat, right? And all it says is, and Miriam died. That's it. That's the whole narrative. So there are stories, there's midrashim that flesh it out. And one of the strange things about this that we learn is that Balaam was born an exceptionally spiritually attuned person. If you really want to get technical, Balaam is one of 2 people in the entire Torah who was born circumcised. Supposedly, that's the mark of an attuned spiritual person. I'll leave that up to you. But Balaam has these incredible spiritual gifts. Who else do we have in the Torah with incredible spiritual gifts? Who performs miracles? Moses, right? Balaam and Moses. It's an incredible contrast of 2 incredibly spiritually powerful, holy people who are gifted in whatever way that means to you. But look at the difference between the 2 of them. Balaam comes alone, almost as a spiritual mercenary. And one of the things I was sharing earlier today with Rabbi Nico is that this parsha really sets up an incredible contrast between 2 figures, both deeply gifted, and yet one, having squandered his gifts, ends up this spiritual mercenary, and the other, who has deeply invested in his gifts for the sake of his community, has ended up leading a people. And so one of the first things I think about when I read this parsha is, what do we do with the gifts we get? Even the most talented among us, I'm sure there's lots of talented people here. I'm just getting to know you. It's my first day.
We got a few.
What's that?
We got a few.
We've got a few, maybe like 4 or 5. There's lots of talented people here, but what you do with them, it does not matter what you have, it's what you do with it. So that was one of the first things I thought about this. What about you, Rabbi?
So I'll say something about what you just said, and I think that there's something very interesting about having gifts and placing them nowhere. Like Balaam, this sorcerer, is a mercenary, right?
Yeah.
He has been given fantastic gifts. He has fantastic capabilities. And what does he do with them? No much. He has no makom. He has no place. He has no community. Someone from a different people reaches out to him, and he says, whatever, so let's kill the Israelites. And he goes in this journey, and symbolically, the words that come out from his mouth are words of blessing for community. What he blesses ultimately is Matovu Alecha Yaakov. When we acknowledge that, we say that's the blessing for community. That's the moment in which we acknowledge what we are building together. We acknowledge our context. And I think that there's a profound message or a profound idea in this concept of having powers, having gifts, and placing them nowhere. Having no place to allocate these gifts. Now, a different thing. You want to say anything about that?
No, تمشي.
Okay, so a different thing about this Torah portion. There's a very interesting sequence, right? We are coming from Hukat. We said that we were going to talk just about Balak. I'll break that rule for a second, but you did break that rule too. So I'll break that rule for 1 second, and I will say that what we also have in this Torah portion is that upon the death of Miriam, there's no water, and Reuben will talk about that a bit tomorrow, but it's just a little thing Reuben I steal from the Torah. So Moses is instructed to touch the rock with his staff, and instead of touching the rock, what does he do?
Strikes it.
He strikes the rock, and those waters are called the waters of what?
Meribah.
Mei Merivah, or in English, the waters of strife, because basically what happens to Moses is that he loses it. He just loses it. And now we have this sorcerer, Bilam, that is invited by Balak, the king, to curse the Israelites. Now, what he says is, the foundation of my power is God. I need to consult with God before attacking the Israelites. And then he said, well, I can't. First time. And then Balak sends even a bigger group. And then he wakes up in the morning and says, I can't, but whatever. I think there's a good possibility here. There's a good business possibility here. And so I'll take it. My gut feeling, and now if you call God God, then this story is very magical. But if you call God morality, or you call God my gut feeling, then the story is very different, because the guy who is invited to attack the Israelites goes and talks to his morality, and morality says no. And then he checks again, and morality says no again. And then he says that he's going to ignore his gut feeling or his morality, and he's going to go into this crusade anyway. And then nature is making miracles and speaking to him. The Kli Yakar will say that, that is a way. The Kli Yakar is a commentary, rabbi. He says that it is a way for God to show Bilam that even a donkey can become a prophet like him. So he better doesn't challenge the foundation of his power. And he decides to ignore the aton, to ignore the donkey, to hit the donkey, and to go anyway into this crusade. And I think that, when you put that into Balak and Bilam, sure, it sounds very bad, and you say, well, who are you? Moshe. I'm the guy that here and there gets a bit emotional, loses it, hits the rock, but in general terms, I have a very good distinction of what I'm supposed to be doing or not. And I think that it's not true. I think that there is something about Bilam that is very, very, very strong. I think that we constantly quiet voices of morality, voices that are dictating us what we are supposed to be doing in this situation, and we say, well, but there is such a great opportunity here. It is so worth it. So we justify to ourselves the fact that we choose to ignore our morality. And I think that this Torah portion ultimately communicates to us that you can't. That at the end, you'll face it. It will find you. Even if you're trying to ignore it, even if you go to sleep twice, you don't ask many questions, and you come and say, okay, I'll do it anyway because it is worth it, and you take the donkey, and you ignore the donkey, and you ignore the angel, and you hit the donkey, then at the end, you can't perform because you ignore your God. So I think that the ultimate message of this Torah portion is do not ignore your God. So any comment on that, and maybe we stop torturing the people of Israel?
I want to add one final thought, a nugget in a different direction. Is that okay?
And then I have one more.
You have one more?
Fine.
Okay.
Go.
This famous phrase that Bilam says, "Ma tovu alecha Yaakov," like how beautiful are your
I agree
tents?
with that.
Oh, okay, come. Earlier tonight we sang a prayer. It was Vishamru. Anyone remember it? Right? How does it go? Or you can sing it if you want. Vishamru. All right. It has this phrase in it. It goes, Et Shabbat l'dorotam. Right? And our commentators think about this phrase. They think about it a lot. Right?
The Shabbat l'dorotam meaning?
Like a Shabbat for all generations.
Okay.
But Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam la'asot et ha-Shabbat. Sorry. Et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam. Our commentators take a look at this and they play with the letters, right? They're saying, what's going on here, right? And they notice that there's an incredible acronym here that's repeated. And that acronym is OHEL. Ochalecha Yaakov, which we read here, and Ochel. And from that, they have this idea. Ochel, what is an Ochel, Rabbi?
Oel, a tent.
A tent. They have this idea that Shabbat is a tent, that Shabbat in itself is a shelter. And every time we sing the words of Bilam on Shabbat, Ma tovu ohlecha Yaakov. What is sheltering us? It could be that we literally have gorgeous tents, in which case, head to REI. But it could be that this experience of Shabbat that we're all having here today, offered in this parsha, is in itself a shelter. Maybe not such a literal one, but a sheltering experience from the slings and arrows of misfortune in life. And I wanted us to take that with us as we enter the Shabbat together. And you had one more nugget?
I have one more. And that in exact that area, there's the rabbis ask, what did Bilam see when he was about to curse the Israelite people? In that moment in which he's about to say the curse, and at the end he says, Ma tovu alecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Israel, how wonderful are your tents, O Jacob, and the dwellings that you have built, Israel. And then the rabbinical answer to that, and Rashi explains that in more detail, the medieval commentator, they say that what Bilam notices is that the tents of the people of Israel weren't facing each other entrances. And the reason for that, and this is rabbinical Judaism, I didn't write this, the reason for that is that they respected each other's spaces and they didn't want to interfere with the private life of each other, and therefore the windows and the entrances of the tents were facing in different directions for reasons of modesty, etc., etc. What ultimately rabbinical Judaism offer as an explanation is that the people of Israel were building a place of kavod, a place in which they recognized, they saw each other, and they respected each other. And that's exactly what Bilam doesn't have. He doesn't have a place in which he's seen or in which he's willing to see anybody. And I think that the difference in this case between the curse and ultimately the blessing is the ability to build community, to invest your powers and our strengths in a place in which we are constantly building together. And maybe with this message of welcoming Shabbat and recognizing the foundations of our strengths, and also recognizing where we want to put those strengths and what we are trying to listen to in our lives and what we are deciding to ignore, we will say to everybody, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Shalom.
Shar Koach in our first public discussion.
Yeah.
Next time we need to be a bit more aggressive, I think.
You got it.
Okay. We're now turn our Sidurim to page 587. We would like all those that are under the age of Bar or Bat or B'nai Mitzvah to join us at the Bima and open the Ark with us, for us. All right, Michael, have you opened the Ark ever? Maybe you want to accompany them.
This
this time.
ark? Never. 5, 8, okay, whatever.
עלינו לשבח לדון הכל,
Please rise,
לתת גדולה ליוצר
בראשית,
שהוא שם חלקנו לאחר את שמו, וגורלנו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו השמיים ממעל, ושכינתו בגובי מרומים.
Page 588.
ואלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו, אפס סולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, והארץ מתחת אין עוד.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא נהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Good job, guys.
You may be seated. Thank you,
got it.
friends, for opening the Ark. Thank you. Shabbat shalom.
Nice job.
Shabbat shalom. At this point, we take a moment to acknowledge mourners in our community. If you are during the first 7 days of mourning Shiva, please rise and share with us who you are remembering. If you are during the, yes. If you are during the first 30 days of mourning Shloshim, please rise and share with us who you're remembering. If you are during the cycle of the first year of mourning, please rise and share with us who you're remembering, please.
Dr. Grace Deutsch, my mother.
To the other friend.
My husband, Jack Long.
His memory be a blessing. If you have a yahrzeit this week, the anniversary of someone's passing by this time of the year and years past, please rise and share with us who you're remembering.
Samuel Goodman, my dad.
Jack Ross and my dad.
Isidore Isaac Leiter, my grandfather. Celebrate Bill, my aunt.
Jerome Scholar, your grandfather.
We remember those who've been taken from us during this past year. Dahlia Schneider, Michael Pleiner, Joyce Levine, Shirley Israel, Thelma Turner, Marilyn Graben, Alan Feigen, Jonah Anschel, Sharon Lowenbrown, Sheila Bamberger, Dr. Grace Deutsch, Clarissa Glotzer, Stephen Bornstein, Richard Kennemer, Ethel Schenker, Varda Tzatchi, Rabbi Talit Shavit, Jack Long, Virginia Larson, PhD, Miriam Moore, Bob Sturman, Lenora Wang, Adam Richard Spilka, Shlomo Isips, Howard Levine, Barbara Lombard, Claire London, Trago Herman, Merle Greenwald, Samuel Greenwald, Anita Kumula, Bryce Lyon, Edna Stone, Miriam Davis, Lauren Janovich, Janet Wool, Charlene Kilgore, Ezra Sati Tsatki, Gideon Hoffer, Alvin Kramer Siegel, Vlasta Vijanovich, Galina Butorina, Karen Imbalzano, Lillian Berman, Robert Bruce Myers, Abraham Karras, Scott Safadi, Norman Green, Marilyn Silverman, Leslie Heinall, David Green, Jeannie Porish, Estelle Abrams, Spencer Caney, Arthur Cherdak, John Ivers, Marilyn Hanselman, Kay Dameron, Nira Marome, Andrea Cameron, Ziba Feruzin, and those who died at this season in years past. Bob Eppinger, Esther Dine, Florence Steiner, Harriet Lapin, Isidore Isig Leiter, Jack Rosson, Jeanette Pickard, Lorraine Olson, Marvin Browndorf, Pauline Lagarde, Arlenette Jenkins, Rita Latween, Roy Allen Uffer, Samuel Goodman, William Brunner, Zella Greenfield. And now you can support our community by standing or sitting, joining us with your voices or your hearts for Kaddish Avilim, the Mourner's Kaddish, on page 598.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חילותה בהמליך מלכותה, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, באמרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומן ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירם בעלמה, באמרו אמן. יאש למה רבה מן שמיה, בחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, באמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, באמרו אמן. May the memories of your dear ones be always a blessing in your life. יהי זכרם ברוך. You may be seated.
It's my pleasure to invite up Julie Ogawa for some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
It's supposed to be working.
Is this working?
Oh, yeah.
Get far away from that candle. I don't know. It makes me nervous. You with the paper and the long hair. Like, come on, Julie, come with us. Just stay with us.
We will not have any drama tonight. But I do want to once again welcome Rabbi Walden to our community of Shir Hadash. It's such a pleasure. Okay, we have a few announcements. Let's see, upcoming Saturday, July 1st at 9:30 in the morning, Torah study, followed by the 10:30 anniversary bar mitzvah of Reuben Levy. Tuesday, July 4th, the ECC and office will be closed for Independence Day. You can now order your challahs online. Please visit the website and place orders by the Tuesday prior to Shabbat. Friday, July 7th, flip-flops Shabbat out on the patio, wine and cheese for adults and snacks and games for the kids
I fixed
and
that.
adults.
I fixed that from last week.
So
Yes.
games for everybody at 5:30, followed by services at 6 p.m. and dinner served around 7 p.m. Registration is now open on the website. Saturday, July 8th, 9:30, Torah study, followed by 10:30 Shabbat service. Wednesday, July 12th at 4 p.m., the Adult Education Monthly Committee meeting will be held here. All are welcome. Please sign up. Friday, July 14th, flip-flops again, Shabbat out on the patio, wine and cheese for adults, snacks and games for kids and adults at 5:30, followed by services 6 p.m. and dinner at 7. I believe this is what we'll be doing in the summer, most summer.
We are spending the summer in flip-flops. But there was a
Good
decision.
luck trying to get your shoes on after wearing flip-flops
And you
for the summer.
can also get flip-flops with Shir Hadash logos on them as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
We are expecting 4th
Beach-
of July
beach towels.
deals. We don't
think it's beach towels.
we don't have control over that, but there's a huge faith that the website that produced that for us will make a 4th of July deal. And if they do, we're going to send an email to the entire congregation giving you heads up.
One more announcement on Saturday, July 15th at 9:30, Torah study, followed by 10:30 Shabbat service. And afterwards, there will be a lunch, and Rabbi Michael Walden and Cantor Deborah Felder-Levy will lead a conversation around how our community handles addiction and recovery. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
And I do want to make another announcement before, as we are inviting David and Ruben to lead us in Kiddush. We will be publicizing that more clearly, but the last Shabbat of August, we will have the privilege of the visit of our emeritus rabbi. Rabbi Aaron will spend an entire Shabbat with us. She will teach a lot of Torah. She'll teach a lot. So there are going to be many learning opportunities with her. So we are very, very excited to have her visiting Northern California after a long time in the cold Washington, D.C. בערב בבוקר יום השישי, please rise. ויחול השמיים בארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. We are on page 123.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הנו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן. אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, ורצה בנו, בשבת קודשו, יאהבהו ורצון, הנחילנו, זיכרון למעשה, כי הוא יום תחילה, למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים. קיוונו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, עם כל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון, הנחלתנו. לחיים.
Someone go to drink that. Here we go, Ruben. We will now make sure that nobody leaves this space without sharing blessings with each other. We invite you to stand next to your family or to beloved friends, or if you are on your own, to adopt a family. And if you recognize that someone is alone, invite them to join your friends or your family.
Can I join you guys?
We can adopt you.
Oh,
We can adopt you.
Thank
I think you are in age.
you for letting me join.
We take a moment to acknowledge our blessings in Shabbat. We count the miracles that we have in our lives. We acknowledge what we are building, the things that we are intentionally investing our energies on, and we pause and we celebrate their existence. We celebrate what they are, who they are. The words of our tradition teach us to say, ישמחם אלוהים כאפרים וכמנשה, ישמחם אלוהים כשרה רבקה רחל ולאה. May God inspire you to be like the fathers and the mothers of the house of Israel. And we say to all of them, to all of you, יברככם אדוני באיש מלכם. May God bless you and protect you. ירא אדוני פניו אליכם ויחונקם. May God's light shine upon you and may God be gracious to you. יישא אדוני פניו אליכם. May you find within you God's presence always, and may you have the strength to follow your conscience, to invest your energies and your powers in the right places, to be intentional about it, and to share blessings and love and not curses. May God bless you with the power to find internal peace, wholeness. Ve'asem lachem shalom. Adonai os le'amav iten. May God give its people the strength, the courage to be makers of peace. Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom. Shabbat shalom everybody. Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.